Good evening. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the special evening paying a tribute to our friend and sister, Basra Farah. Let me tell you how I met with her when she was a young student at East Michigan. And her famous brother, Nuruddin, and I met her in Ypsilanti with very good friends of long back in Somalia. And this is how I met her. In the middle of winter, Michigan winter, mind you, it's pretty cold and pretty snowy. And since that time, I think for anyone who's met with Basra, we all remember her smile, her kindness, her generosity to everyone she would meet. And this I will never forget. My family back in Montreal remembers her as a sweet angel, so do I. And I'm very honored to be the first one to salute the Farah family. And thank you for coming here, and thank you for your generosity. And our friend Fozia Abdulkader will talk about the projects we have now with the Basra Farah Fund for Women and Children. So you will have a more concrete idea of the realization that we are trying to do. And this is in honor of our dear sister. So, I don't know, Fozia, can you talk to us about the small projects we are starting in Somalia and in Puntland? And this is it. Well, thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Monique, for that. And thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. As we all said, we are here tonight especially to honor our sister's memory. And I am honored, and I want to say thank you for including me in this process, particularly to the Farah family and the sisters and the brothers in the room. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about what we have done since the Basra Farah Fund for Women and Children was established. It was, I remember, at Basra's funeral when we were there that Nuruddin said he wanted to start this, and some of us volunteered to be part of it, to be part of that board. And I think it is really a short time that we have been doing the Basra Farah Fund for Women and Children, but we have had several milestones that we think that we can be proud of, and some growing pains as well. I think our first accomplishment was establishing it as a charitable organization, which we have done in February of 2015. Prior to that, Nuruddin secured some small funds from the UNICEF USA team, who generously said that they would be part of this project as well. And we have come together and created the board of directors for the Basra Farah Fund for Women and Children. We have quickly then decided that Basra spent her entire life helping women and children, and the focus should be child maternal health particularly. So to that end, we have then sought experts because the 5 of us that are board of directors are coming from different fields. So we put together and requested from friends the scientific board of the Basra Farah Fund, of which some of them are career doctors, people who work with Save the Children, International Médecins Sans Frontières nurses, you name it. So we were able to get guidance the board of directors was able to be advised and guided by that scientific board. And with the help of the scientific board, we were able to carve out our initial pilot project. That first pilot project was to take the meager resources we were able to raise and buy ambu bags, infant resuscitation devices, sort of bulb syringes, thinking about Somali women delivering babies in the Somali territories, not particularly just Somalia, but all over, and talking to people like Dr. Khalif Bile in what might be needed. We landed with the advice of the scientific board to identify several medical devices that we could purchase from UNICEF and then ship it to. So we came to the decision of starting our pilot project in Bari region. Bari region is in what is today known as Puntland, but it's one of the largest Somali regions in the Somali Republic. And it has about 15 sort of community health clinics scattered across the region. So our first pilot project was to donate the infant resuscitation devices. We donated an adult set as well as child set as well as neonatal sets in multiple syringes, as well as a newborn advanced care simulator so that they can get trained on. So all those things got shipped. We were able to negotiate a process where we wanted it to reach Bosaso. Bosaso has a port, but it's not one of the big ports that, like Berbera and Mogadishu, where the big ships go. But also, we couldn't really put what we had in a container. So we navigated and took the material to Dubai, and then it got from Dubai to Bosaso on a boat. So our pilot project, which is what I want to talk about tonight, had two phases. The first phase was identifying the equipments that were needed, purchasing them and shipping them there. The second phase was training. So we were able to also support the Bari Regional Health Officer and the Department of Health of Puntland to train healthcare workers, particularly midwives and traditional birth attendants, to use these devices, the infant resuscitation devices and the ambu bags. So if I just touch on that, the training took place in Bosaso. However, they came from multiple places, in Armo, from Qardo, from Iskushuban, those of you who know the region. The training participants altogether were 22. They were trained for 3 days from June 28th to June 30th, and then given these devices. And one of the good things about working with the Ministry of Health and the Bari Regional Health Officer is they also are going to monitor how these devices are being used. And up to date, even though it's not a complete data, we know that from June, when these nurses were trained and midwives, to today, we have statistics of 92 babies that got delivered and the devices have been used. So that really, in such a short span of time, we were able to capture that data, and we will have an ongoing data, both not just kind of like when the baby is delivered, but also what happens to the mothers as well. Monique and I were talking about that earlier. We will have a way to track that. So that is our pilot project so far delivered. We are in conversation and engaging with several people that could lead to our next projects. As you know, as you engage in conversations, you learn a lot. So we were able to talk to people in Puntland, but also we reached out to Dr. Usman Adan Abdullah, Dr. Usman Adan Adde, who runs a clinic in Mogadishu. So we are in conversation with him to sort of see what it is that we can support them with when it comes to child and maternal health. So that's one clinic in Mogadishu. We also engaged through friends, the Office of the Governor of Garissa. They also run some youth programming, but also focusing on perhaps girls' education programming, or maybe even specifically child maternal health. We are also recently in conversation with Dr. Abdisalan, who runs Bilal Hospital in Diridawa, who is going to provide doctors that will train nurses and healthcare workers in Tula Guled near Jigjiga. I know that Nuruddin is also engaging people in Hargeisa. So as I said, we are trying to sort of map out the Somali Peninsula and make sure that we focus child and maternal health first as a priority, but also girl education in that sense. And I think the most concrete one for us now is Dr. Abdisalan, who comes to Sacramento, California 3 months of the year and is in Diridawa the rest of the year, who's going back this week, and will work with us to try and see if we can train more healthcare workers in the Jigjiga suburbs and the villages surrounding that. So without really getting into too many details, I just wanted to give you guys tonight a flavor of the work that we have embarked on so far, and to give you an idea of where we are headed as well. So as I said, you know, we had the conversation, the initial conversation that January at the funeral, 2014, and we have since, I think, have come some milestones, still beginning and growing. And I would like to then conclude with saying thank you for coming out tonight and supporting this worthwhile organization. And I'm really glad to be part of this. So thank you very much.
I'm here to speak for and in honor of Basra Farah Hassan, who was my aunt, but I'd like to think was my mother. I think she'd be very proud and very honored by all the good work that has been done by the foundation established in her name. Knowing her my whole life, looking up to her, being inspired by her and the great work that she did professionally and all the great things she did for her family, I take great pride in seeing everything that's being done today. We all know how she died, but I think it's more important to focus on how she lived, working hard, being kind and considerate. To her coworkers, she was an invaluable resource. So many of them reached out to us in her passing to tell us again and again how much they loved her, how much they missed her, and how they really couldn't imagine moving on without her. I myself found it very difficult to imagine life without her, but I would often hear her voice in my head telling me how we would have to move on, and I know it's what she would want. So I just want to say again, because she was like a mother to me, and I feel like it's my responsibility to say thank you on behalf of her, for all of you coming out tonight, for all of your generous donations, and thank you for helping keep her legacy alive. We really appreciate it on behalf of my mom, Basra Farah Hassan, and the rest of my family. Thank you.
Good evening. I greet all of you. We've been here long enough, and I probably am not going to talk for a very long time. I'll say very, very few things. And since I've already done an interview today, and the interview will be run by NPR, I have no idea when, but it will be run by NPR. I would like to say one or two things, and that is, I have a large number of brothers and sisters. I do not remember Basra and I ever arguing about something. And all I remember is Basra, who is patient, considerate, generous, willing to listen to whatever it is that other people had to say about it. I also remember some of the conversations we had. Once in Mombasa, where our father was in a hospital, and I recall flying from Kampala, Uganda, where I was teaching at the time, and going and spending some time with the old man and Basra. And she would wake up early in the morning and stay by his bedside the entire day without thinking about herself. Something I would never have been able to do, because I would have found reason to think about writing, to think about traveling, to think about doing other things. Basra was being offered jobs left, right, and center, but she refused to accept all the jobs that she was being offered by the United Nations, by Children, Save the Children Fund, by Oxfam, by everybody. She said, our father is sick, I am not going to go anywhere. Now, two things I think are very, very important. Number one, the place of women in the lives of families. I can't think of a man, not only me, but we have other brothers and sisters. All the women, the members of the female members of our family, have devoted more time to keeping the family alive, more than the men. And therefore, Basra was, for me, a symbol of patience, of care, with which I associate with women. That's number one. Number two, the generosity of it. And every time someone of the family needed something, she was out to help. She thought about every little detail in a way that impressed me. Something that's also very important is that I was the first person to receive her corpse when it was flown from Kabul. And I don't ever remember any moment that was sadder to me than the moment when I went to the airport, picked her up, and instead of welcoming the person, I was signing pieces of paper, receiving a corpse. Now, these are some of the moments that will stay with me forever. And I've never thought, it never crossed my mind that I would be weeping and crying and missing and as though I were a baby. And I have remained that baby every time I think of Basra. Now, my commitment to her memory is one in which I would like her legacy to stay with us for as long as possible. And in her absence, my idea is to continue helping as best as I can women and children in the Somali Peninsula, and eventually, if possible, move on to other areas, you know, in our lives. And therefore, I am very, very grateful, first of all, to the members of the board, Fauzia and Monique, who are here, and two other members of the board who couldn't join us. One of them lives in Vienna, another one lives in Los Angeles. And the scientific board, of whom there are a number, and our patron, Abdul Qawi Ahmed Yusuf, who is a member of the International Court, who is a judge. These are the people who have been helping Basra Farah Fund continue to work and to help. We have a number of projects, and I assure you, we will work very, very hard to make these projects work. And I thank you very much for coming, and thank you again.